We talked to Francesco Ricchi about defeating Noah Cutter, being in a coma for 3 weeks after BKFC 14, and much more. Coming up next. Wow, it was, I know, scary for, the bare knuckle community and just, I think, the fight community in general. When we heard that they had to induce you into a coma because of the throat punch, and I don't want to talk about it a whole lot because I don't know a whole lot about it other than that. Maybe give us the details, man. Give us the details on what exactly happened. And
Yeah, so pretty much in the first round, the fight starts between me and Noah, and we get into a couple of exchanges, and I thought I was doing a pretty good job at avoiding the majority of the big shots. But Noah was punching from very weird angles, and weird angles as in they were very hard to see but effective. He was pretty accurate. And he hit me as I was coming back up from an exchange, after I dipped or after I slipped a punch. He caught me with his right hand, and it kind of like took a chunk out of my neck, almost kind of like slipped off my neck. But he hit me very clean in the trachea. So a lot of boxers know this, but when you're going for a body shot, you're not sitting there trying to punch into the body. You're trying to punch through it, almost as if you're taking a chunk of meat out. And
sure.
that's exactly how I got hit in the throat. And I didn't really feel it right when I got hit, but I heard it. It was a really, really loud punch. And then I remember right after that, I threw a punch. And whenever you punch, you breathe out and then you breathe back in once you're, bringing your punch back to your face or bringing your fist back to your face. And I remember I breathed out, and then all of a sudden when I tried to breathe back in, it was almost like I had no air, like I was underwater. I'm like, and he saw that because I kind of touched my neck a little bit. And he smelled the blood in the water and he went for it. He started unloading the kitchen sink. And after a little bit, I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was a barrage of punches, if it was the lack of oxygen getting to my brain from the hematoma. Um, After a little bit, I got dropped. I got hit in the chin, and I just couldn't see shit. All the punches that he was throwing my way, I couldn't see him, and all the punches that I was throwing back was just to try to catch him and get his respect a little bit because he was throwing all crazy, which normally plays into my style of fighting. I'm a counterpuncher, so whenever somebody's very aggressive, that works in my favor. But I just couldn't see shit. And then once I get up from that flash knockdown, I was having a hard time doing anything really. First of all, I couldn't breathe. Second of all, I was having a hard time keeping my composure because my brain was kind of starting to panic, or in my head, I was starting to panic a little bit. And I was just trying to keep my composure and at the same time trying to hurt this motherfucker that's trying to take my head off
Sure.
to try to get just to try to get him off me so I could recover. And at one point, man, I was just starting to see very blurry and starting to see, just kind of like shadows. I couldn't really see clearly. And my feet were like cement bricks. I couldn't move around. And the only thing that I was trying to do was just take in air. I just couldn't breathe for the life of me.
Did
And
you
I
think at that
remember,
point something was like wrong, or did you
yeah,
just think that, okay,
I thought something was up, but I had no idea what the fuck happened. In the midst of everything that was going on, because obviously, bare knuckle fights are very high paced. I didn't know if I got punched in the stomach. I didn't know what the fuck happened. I knew I couldn't breathe. And I was trying. A body punch, a lot of the times I could poker face it and I could just sit there and try to tough it out. Even if you get hit in the liver, I can, at the very least try to maybe even get hit, or even if you get dropped, or you spit out your mouthpiece just to try to buy some time, whatever the fuck the case may be, tough it out for the 20 seconds, 30 seconds that it lasts, and hope that the referee doesn't stop the fight, and then resume it and then keep going at the fight. But this feeling wasn't fucking going away, and then I ended up getting dropped again, and I'm like on the ground. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And I remember just me having to get up the first time that I got dropped, just pushing off, with my chest. I almost didn't have the energy to do it because I couldn't fucking breathe to save my own life. So then I get back up. Mergliata's like, "Hey, are you good?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I thought I was looking at him, but apparently I was looking over to the side. And Mergliata looks at him and he goes, "Hey, I'm over here." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just looking at my opponent," which was total bullshit. I wasn't really looking at my opponent at all. I just couldn't really see shit. The fight continues after that, and I remember thinking, you got to throw punches no matter what. You have to be active, otherwise the referee is going to stop the fight. So I was missing everything I was throwing. Noah was hitting me with almost every shot that he was throwing. Because, like I said, he's very accurate, and he was throwing a lot of combos. And finally, obviously I got dropped pretty early in the fight. I got dropped like within 30 seconds because the throw punch happened like within the first couple of exchanges. So I was compromised like pretty early in the fight, and I was struggling to regain composure for the majority of that round. But finally, the round's over. Minute 30 after the throw punch, the round was finally over. And in the corner, when I could finally swallow a little bit of water, which was really hard for me to do, that's when my throat kind of cleared up a little bit and I could start to breathe. And then in the second round, still had pain, still was very, very hard to breathe. I think I took two punches to the throat in the first round. One was just, the accidental punch that started everything. The other one hit me on the other side of the throat. That was the one that actually, it didn't shatter, but it created a fracture where my voice box was, my LaCroix, I think it's called. And that's what was causing all the secretion to find its way into my lungs. And that's what was filling my lungs up with blood. So in the second round, I don't know if my adrenaline kicked in. I don't know what the fuck it was, but I could start to breathe and I could start to fight a little bit. So I remember, all right, cool. You can't take in a full lung of air, but breathe in as much as you can, get in the pocket exchange, and then get out. And that's when I started keeping Noah at the end of my punches. I started keeping him at the end of my jabs. That's when I started um, feeling my feet again. I started feeling comfortable and getting out of the way. And then I started opening up on him and I started getting out of the way of his big shots. He started missing. I started connecting and I saw his demeanor kind of change. And it's almost like you think that the finish line is here when in reality, like you bring the finish line all the way back here. And I saw kind of a look in his face like, what do I got to do to kill this motherfucker? And I just kind of saw him take a deep breath. And that's when I knew I had to fight. Um, and then after that, after the fight was over, I guess my adrenaline wore off or whatever the fuck happened after the fight. I remember every hour that went by was harder and harder and harder for me to breathe. I couldn't speak. I mean, my voice was gone. I tried to talk into the camera after the fight, and I thought that the camera was muted, but it wasn't muted. I just couldn't fucking say anything. And around, I want to say it was like 12, 1 o'clock at night, and when I was at the after party, I was there in the lobby. I ended up just going upstairs to my room because I couldn't fucking breathe. And I laid down, and when I laid down, everything actually got worse because now all the fluid that was inside my lungs made its way upward. So I remember thinking, if I close my eyes and I go to sleep now, I might not make it to the morning. If I can't breathe right now and I go to sleep, and who knows what the fuck's gonna happen. So I got in my car. A buddy of mine wanted to come with me, but I didn't want to ruin his night too. So I got in the car, drove all the way up to Broward General because it was close to my house, and I took the clipboard with the paperwork and I passed out and kind of like crashed or fell over into some chairs. And then after that, I just remember waking up and it was December, and I had a shitload of messages of people saying, "Oh my God, you scared the hell out of me." And I'm like, not really my choice. It's not like I chose to go in a coma. I went to the hospital and they did what they did, and then I woke up. So, here I am. I'm weak. I lost almost 40 pounds when I was under. I was 158 when I got out of the hospital. And now I'm almost at 75. I'm slowly climbing and getting back up. So, day by day. I couldn't walk when I first got home. My cousin, which is also my roommate, he had to carry me up the stairs. And every day got a little bit better. I'm still skinny as shit, but slowly but surely my face is getting colored again. I'm not as pale, and the hole that I have here for where they did the tracheostomy is closing.
Okay.
So, shit's going a little bit better.
Wow, man. Wow. When did you get home?
December like 3rd, I think. The 1st is when I woke up, and I think the 3rd is when I actually got home.
So what is that? That's the 3rd.
It's like 2 weeks ago.
So that's you were almost in a coma for almost 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Wow, man.
Yeah. And when I got to the hospital, I didn't fill out any paperwork, and I don't know what the fuck happened, but apparently like nobody could come see me, including my parents. And my dad was able to call a really good friend of ours. It's actually been my primary healthcare physician since I came to the States in 2001.
Okay.
And he was able to use his contacts to get my parents up to the ICU where I was at, because they were obviously worried sick. I didn't tell anybody that I was going to the hospital except for my buddy that wanted to come with me, and he's the one that ended up telling me. My sister, which lives in Australia, and she's the one that told my parents, and then the whole world ended up finding out, obviously. But I didn't want anybody to know anything was wrong. If I could have kept everything under the radar and just not had anybody find out about anything, I would have rathered it that way. Little did I know I was going to be out for 19 days. Little did I know I was going to be waking up into the next month. So I was trying to keep everything calm and quiet, but obviously it didn't end up working out that way. So it is what it is.
Do me a favor, man, because I've never talked to anybody that's like been in like a any kind of like induced coma that long. When you finally came to and you woke up, like in your brain, like to you, what did you think happened? Like your initial, you wake up, you're in the hospital. Like, did you think it had only been like a day or something, or
Yeah.
like a,
Yep. So I'm not a drug guy. I've never really taken drugs. I've never had a trip from drugs. I think I've maybe taken a Percocet once after I had a brutal motorcycle accident.
yeah.
Um, I woke up and I was on an amount of drugs that was insane. First of all, my motor skills were all fucked up. I have no sense of coordination. So as soon as I got up and I was able to turn my phone on, the nurse at the hospital, thankfully, she had a charger. And I was actually still in a hallucination. And I remember texting or replying to a text message or liking a text message on a group chat that we were all a part of. And two of my close friends, two of my best friends, they were on their way to the hospital. They're like, we don't give a shit how, but we got to see you. So they were trying to
Mm,
like sneak into the hospital to come see me. As I was texting them, I was trying to text a friend of mine because I thought that the hospital was actually a hotel and that he could get me a room inside that hotel. Because I was so fucked up, I was tripping balls over these drugs that they were giving me. Because
yeah.
I saw the bill yesterday for the first time, and the majority of everything that's written down is like fentanyl, morphine, all these different drugs that they were giving me to keep me sedated or to, I don't know,
Yeah.
to keep me from the pain or whatever. So when I was texting people, I'm pretty sure people already came to terms with the fact that I had brain damage because I couldn't form a text message. I couldn't write shit down, and I
Yeah.
couldn't speak either because I had a hole in my throat. So
Right.
they were giving me like a notepad, and they're like, "Hey, write on a notepad," and I couldn't fucking write. Like my hand wasn't making any gesture. Apart from the fact that when I was under, my body was in a catabolic state, so it was eating the majority of what I already had, which was
Sure.
muscle tissue, whatever the fuck
Sure.
was in my body, that's what it was eating because all they were feeding me were fluids. I
Right.
had no muscle and I had no coordination, and I was on a shitload of drugs. So I'm sitting there trying to write, I'm trying to text, and everything's just coming out gibberish. On top of that, I'm sitting here texting a buddy of mine that I see maybe once every couple months. Hey man, what do they tell at the hotel at the concierge? And he's thinking that I'm like half dead in the hospital, so he's just like, all right, this guy's tripping balls. Like he's either on a shitload of drugs or he's got permanent brain damage. Because when I first got admitted into the hospital, they put the oxygen saturation meter on my finger, and my
Mm,
blood alcohol or my blood oxygen level, the saturation was like 78%, and it's supposed to be between 95 and 100.
yeah.
Anything lower than 90%, it's you have a high risk of brain damage. You get hypoxemia, and the first thing to get affected is
Yep.
your brain.
Yep.
So that's what the doctors told my pops, and that's what he relayed to everybody else was that there's a really high chance that his memory would be affected. That if he does wake up, he's gonna have brain damage. So when I first woke up, it was a bit of a mess. People were kind of scared because of the shit that I was texting. Not because I was texting anything that was like dangerous, but I was just, I
Just
didn't know what
out
the
of it.
fuck was
You were
going
just
on.
out of it. Yeah.
I was out of it, and I had so many hallucinations when I was under in that coma that I was trying to relate that to real life because I had no idea what the fuck was going on. So, it was a bit of a blur, but now that I'm finally, I'm off of the majority of the meds that they put me on and everything's just kind of getting better. Just life kind of stabilized a little bit. I was able to kind of like diversify between what was a dream and what was real life because all the shit that happened and everything that I was dreaming about when I was in a coma, just it was very realistic. It looked and felt very realistic. So
All right. Well, how are you? I mean, how are you now, man? Because like you said, it's been a couple weeks now that you've been out. Um, I- you already said you're already putting the weight back on. You're starting to get off the drugs. Like, what do you think what's your mentality like now? I mean, is everything looking pretty good as far as like,
I
you know, go ahead.
no, to finish up. Sorry about that.
No, I was just gonna say, like, is there like do you see the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, like the
Yeah,
road to recovery?
I want to fight like yesterday. I was pissed off that I couldn't fight this last weekend. I was supposed to fight down in Miami, but it is what it is. I'm already doing squats, riding bicycle, doing everything that I can to get back in the gym. I can't wait to spar. I was over at Joel's gym, Romero's gym the other day, and he was training, and I can't wait to get back in there and actually train. So I've been back at work for the last couple of days. Now it's not it doesn't hurt to walk anymore. For
Mm,
the last couple of weeks when I kind of like got back up on my feet, just standing for an extended amount of time would hurt my back. So every day that goes by, everything gets better. I definitely see the road at the end of the tunnel, and I can't wait to get back in there and fight. Because in my opinion, my performance was dog shit. In this last fight against Noah, I had to rely on just grit and heart, which I know I can always do, but it's not a smart way to fight. So I see the light at the end of the tunnel, man. I'm hoping if all goes well that I can get back in there February, March. Even though the doctors told me that I should probably take 4 months off with no contact, but if I had it my way and I heal as fast as I've been healing, which has been, half the time that they've told me that it would take me to walk, half the time that they told me it would take for me to do the majority of the shit that I'm doing now, I'm pretty sure that I'll be able to get back in there, maybe start sparring sometime in January, end of January, and then, hopefully maybe at the end of February, March, get a fight. So I'm not gonna rush it, even though it sounds like I am. But as soon as I feel 100%, sorry about that. As soon as I feel 100%, I'm taking a fight.
Uh, I have to correct you on this. Your performance was not dog shit, my man. Dude, I saw because I was there. I saw Noah's face the next morning in the hotel, and the fact that what you're telling me and what you were feeling, and you couldn't fucking breathe, and your lungs were really filling up with blood, and you still did all of that with what was going on. That's insane to me, man. Like, heart and determination, I think, is an understatement, right, of what you displayed, man. I mean, it's a fucking understatement.
I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I quit, and I spoke to a lot of people. I mean, I woke up from the hospital and I had 1,360 notifications from WhatsApp, from Facebook Messenger, Facebook, Instagram, people that mentioned me in the stories, like everything all together. And that's excluding phone calls because my phone was off, it died. Voicemails, all these different social media platforms and WhatsApp and all these different messenger apps. And a lot of people, a lot of people that I spoke to, they all told me the same thing. But the reason why I think that my performance was dog shit was because I should have won in the first round. And I'm not trying to disrespect Noah. I just know how hard that I train. But regardless of anything that's going to happen inside the ring, I'm never going to quit. I would rather die than live with the thought that I gave up at one point. I had consciousness. I could see. I mean, even if I couldn't see, but I had consciousness about me. And I physically could keep fighting, but I chose to stop the fight or I chose to quit. And there's a lot of people that I spoke to after the fight, even fighters, even friends of mine, that call me, that train in my gym, and they go, dude, why don't you just stop the fight? You understand if you could have taken another punch there, or maybe even gotten punched in the Adam's apple or some shit like that happened, you could have died, which is true because it's your windpipe.
Yeah.
The hematoma was pushing into pretty
Yeah.
much the main supplier of oxygen to my entire body. So they're like, why don't you just stop the fight? Your health is more important. And I'm like, dude, before I fight, I always tell everybody the same thing. It's kill or be killed. And that mentality is before I quit, especially in front of a shitload of people, because thankfully, I have a pretty large friend circle. So there were a lot of people there at the fight that, came to see me fight. Before I quit, especially after I invited everybody out there, especially after this is what I love doing. I mean, I have to go through hell just to make it to fight night, between work, between having to pay for the expenses at my shop, the expenses at home, rent and all that kind of shit, and put myself inside the ring for 10 minutes or less. I have to put myself through hell. And for me to give up on all the sacrifices that I had made the couple months prior to go in there and quit just because I got hurt, regardless of how severe the injury was, because obviously this was something that was a little on the severe side,
Right.
and then live the rest of my life knowing that I quit, when regardless of the fact, if I would have quit in the first round, or if I didn't quit in the first round and I ended up winning, the outcome would have been the same. I still would have ended up in a coma. I still would have been out of my element for over a month because I just got back to work yesterday, and that was already a month after I set foot in my shop, before the fight. So I would much rather just tough it out and keep fighting, or at the very least go out and literally go out, and get knocked unconscious, rather than saying, you know what, this is too much pain. I can't bear it anymore. That's it. I quit. That's what kill or be killed means. So I would much rather have had the fight end the way that it did end, where I kept, I toughed through it, and then I ended up kind of relying on my heart and finishing the fight, which is what's important, rather than saying, you know what, this is too much. Even though I got punched in the throat, and nobody would have said, oh wow, what a pussy, this guy ended up quitting.
Right.
In my mind, that's exactly how I would have viewed it.
Well, like you said, man, like the kill or be killed mentality. Trust me, and you know this, right? Everybody says, a lot of fighters say that, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go out on my shield, kill or be killed. A lot of people say that, but let's be honest. I've seen a lot of people quit over way less, right?
Oh, of course.
It happened, and I'm not dogging nobody. It's just the way it is. But dude, like I said, you could have fucking died, You
Yeah.
literally, like, you could have fucking died. That's how serious this was. And like, I think from now on, when you say that, you literally embody that
Oh, of
phrase,
course.
kill or be killed. I'm gonna go out on my fucking shield. I almost died.
Yeah.
Like,
And I would rather it that way, man. To be honest with you, I mean, I know people are gonna look at me and say, "Oh, you're an idiot. You don't know what you're saying." But I love my life. I do, regardless of all the shit that I've went through, regardless of all the shit that I've went through, even medically this year. I
yeah,
love my life.
sure.
And the thing that I love doing the most is fighting. You know, I love the sport that I'm in, and I put myself through the hell that I put myself just to make it to fight night because I love this aspect of my life. If I was gonna die, I would much rather die doing something I love than die, for instance, in a car accident or getting COVID or some dumb shit like that. So if I
Mm,
was to die fighting, I'm not saying, hey, you know what, fuck it, I'm 26 years old, let me go out on, let me go out in a fight. But if I was to die fighting, I could think of a million different ways where I could die in a much more fucked up circumstance than that. So I'm not saying that if I was to die, everybody be happy for me. No, that's not the case at all. But it's like, if you have a choice of, like, dying because you overdosed on Viagra or dying because you were fighting, I would much rather just stop fighting doing something that I love. So that's
right.
my kill or be killed mentality, is that when you get in there, man, no matter what, if you have consciousness, even when I was hurt and I was down, my
Yeah,
instinct and my thought was, I'm gonna fuck this guy up. And I would, like, when I come back to my senses and I recover, like, I'm gonna kill this guy. And as soon as I did recover, I wanted to murder Noah. Like, I mean, now, of course, after the fight, I have so much respect for the guy, so much respect for him before the fight. But inside the fight, I'm like,
sure,
this
sure.
motherfucker. Like, I can't believe this shit. He
Yeah,
dropped me. Like, it was so much like I want to get him back for the shit that he just did. But that was my thought process the whole time. My thought process was, oh Lord, how do I get out of here? Oh, how do I feel? No, that wasn't it at all. I'm just like, dude, I'm gonna fuck this guy up. As soon as I recover, it's over. I didn't care if I had to go through 4 rounds of hell. And in the fifth round, I finally, was able to get my lungs back. Or I didn't care even if I did get my lungs back. And when I was swinging, finally, I would be able to land the punch that would change the fight. Or even if I would make it to a decision, but not quit in the fight. Some way, shape, or form, I wanted to hurt Noah. And I mean, we beat the shit out of each other. But I have so much respect for that guy, man. I wish him the best in his future. And it was really fun being able to dance with somebody like Noah instead of, going in there and just fighting somebody that, didn't come to fight. I knew he was game from the moment that me and him faced off. So it was fun, but I never had any quit in me. I never had that feeling like, oh Lord, how do I finish this, or how do I stop this? Hell no. Like, I was just pissed off. Um it's almost like you're playing a game and you're getting the shit beat out of you. You just want to win no matter what. Of course,
right.
fighting's a little bit different because your health is on the line and you're getting hit, and not to mention the fact that bare knuckle, there's no padding. Like, you saw it in Noah's face. His lip was split from his nose all the way down to his mouth, and it was
Yep.
pissing out blood like crazy. So we're hurting each other in there, but my thoughts were never to end the fight. My thoughts were always to win. Like, I have to get this one back. I have to be able to get him back for what he just did to me. So
Well, brother, I tell you what, man. I mean, obviously, I respect anybody that fucking gets in there and does anything like that, man. But you've got my respect for fucking eternity because of that, bro.
thank you, Josh.
So I I mean, it's really that kind of story, man. It really is inspiring. Whether you may not think so or not, man. I think that kind of I think that inspires people, man. That kind of that, just like you said, just that heart and that the sheer determination to not want to quit, because a lot of people, especially especially with the way things fucking are in the world, because 2020 COVID and the elections all fucked up, and all these different things. It's a lot of reason for a lot of people just say,
Lose hope,
fuck it,
yeah.
fuck it. It's tough. Life's getting hard. Fuck it. And then you hear something like that, man, where like literally, like I said, the embodiment of not fucking giving up. And you hear that story, man, and just wow. It literally gives me goosebumps, hearing the story. And I'm
I'll tell you
so
this. I had throughout my career and throughout all the training camps, I've always, every single fight that I've had, even the ones, I've lost a fight in my amateur MMA days. Um, I've never ever been in pain, and I've never been pushed as hard as I've been pushed in practice. So I've always thought to myself whenever I walk out there, like, the hardest rounds that I've ever had are with my buddy Leo, who's a boxer, and he's got retarded power. I mean, he's somebody that literally has freak power. He's
Hmm.
180 pounder, but he probably fights like 165 in boxing, but he's disgusting. He was Erislan de Lara's sparring partner. Him and Romero are the two strongest, toughest, fastest fighters that I've ever fought, and they are by far the hardest. I mean, I remember when Yoel fought Rocco in Australia.
Hmm.
Yoel is very afraid of not afraid, but he's very weary of spies. So the area that they made for us to train, that the UFC made for us in Perth, Australia, inside the hotel for us to train, Yoel didn't want to train there. Yoel wanted to train inside his hotel suite.
Hmm.
So me and him were sparring with 4-ounce gloves the week of the fight, doing 36 minutes. We were doing 6 6-minute rounds in the morning with 30 seconds of rest, and I was his only sparring partner. And it was me, him, Abe Kawa, and his coach, Master Lay, in the hotel room.
Hmm.
And I remember thinking, which is what I think before every fight, I'm like, dude, nobody's going to hit me that hard. And I've never gotten dropped from anybody, practice or ever, before Noah dropped me in the fight. So I remember always thinking, no matter what, I'm going to be fine. It's never going to hurt as hard as it hurt there. We were sparring with no shin pads, and I got head kicked one time. So I'm like, I don't need to worry about anything. Nobody's going to hit me as hard as Joel hit me. Nobody's going to push me as hard as, Lewis pushes me when we wrestle, or as hard as Leo pushes me when me and him are boxing. So I have nothing to worry about. And no matter what
Right.
happens, I know that I can always rely on my durability or on my grit. But I could have never possibly imagined that I would get hit in the trachea, and it would have been what it led to. But still, the most important thing in a fight is maintaining your composure. No matter what the fuck happens, stay calm. It's like when I go free diving, or when I go even scuba diving, and you go underwater, you go into a wreck or wherever the case may be, there's a lot of things that can happen. You can lose your orientation, you don't know which way is up sometimes, which does happen. You can get caught in the net. And most people's reaction will be to just sit there and kick and punch and get the fuck away from there, and then you expend all this energy, and now you have no air in your lungs, and now you can't even find your way back up. So the most important thing is maintaining your composure. Try to find your knife, figure out where you're caught calmly, and then get back up to the surface. Because if you're panicked, you'd fuck up. So that's what I relied on when I was in the fight with Noah. As soon as I got caught, I'm like, keep your composure, keep a poker face, and keep punching. Try to stay as calm as you can so you can recover. So something happened in the fight that I had no idea was going to happen, something that I never got put through. I never got hit in the trachea before that. I was never in a position like that where I had no breath ever. It just never happened. A body shot maybe in practice, but it was different than something that lasted a whole round. So,
Hmm.
sometimes shit happens that comes out of the blue, and your ability to deal with it on the spot is what makes you a fighter.
That reminds me. Did you ever hear Cowboy Cerrone told a story because he does like cave diving and all kinds
I
of crazy
remember that, yeah, on Joe Rogan. Yep.
Yeah, and where he was in a fucking cave and like he thought that was it for like a brief moment. Fucking complete darkness. He lost his
Yeah.
orientation, and I think
He
he said
couldn't find it. They use tether lines when you're cave diving, and he couldn't find the tether line, so he had no idea which way was up. Yeah, I remember that.
yeah.
Yep.
Whew.
Shit. Yeah, I've had that happen. I was on a wreck actually down in the Keys. There's a ship off of, I don't even remember where the fuck it is because this was a while ago, but I want to say it was Key Largo area,
Mm.
and it was at like the 80-foot mark. And I used to free dive down to the ship and then touch back up. And I remember I decided to go down there with a pony tank. A pony tank is a really small scuba tank. And I was down there, and I got to the point where I don't remember what happened. I think one of the braided lines on the regulator decided to give out, and all of a sudden I had no air. And when that happens, your reaction is hurry up and swim to the surface, but you can't do that without breathing out because you're breathing compressed air. Your lungs are
Mm.
now in a compressed state because you're underwater. You're at 3 atmospheres, 4 atmospheres, whatever the hell it is at 80 feet. So whenever you breathe back up and your lungs start to expand, so does the air. So you have to go up with almost your mouth open, or like breathing out all that air you have, because even if you breathed out at 80 feet and
Mm.
you're swimming back up, the air is going to expand, and now you're going to have a full lung of air, and you can get there's many conditions that can happen. I don't know exactly what they're called in English, but you can get a pneumothorax. There's a lot of things that can happen to you. When I went down with that pony tank, I got caught. There was a net, and I remember my foot was caught in it. And what was really caught in that net was where my knife was on my leg. That's what kind of got caught in that net. And then right when I got caught, that's when the regulator decided to give out.
Mm.
And I was like, oh shit, now what do I do? So my first thought is, first of all, untangle yourself. So I entangled myself. And as I was swimming back up, I realized as my lungs were starting to expand, oh shit, breathe out. If I
Mm.
would have panicked, I would have probably still been down there to this day. So yeah, it does suck when something like that happens underwater, but I try to relate whatever the fuck happens to me in a fight to a situation or a circumstance or an instance that I've had outside of the cage. So
that fight or flight trigger, right? That fight or flight instinct.
yeah.
Oh man. Well, wow. I thank you so much, man. Thank you for sharing your story, dude. Because
Thank you for
like I
having me on the show.
like I said, it kind of gives me goosebumps just kind of talking about it, man. And like I said, I'm inspired, man. I think a lot of other people will too. You know, the more they hear about what exactly you were going through, and like I said, the whole, you know, your determination and your grit, man. And I don't want to keep you too much longer, but so hopefully March, February, March for a
Yeah,
return.
yeah. I'd like that to be. I'd like that to be.
Good,
I have
good.
I still got this hole in my neck that right now is about the size of a bottle cap. So I'm
Okay,
hoping to God that this maybe closes up in about a week to 10 days. And
okay,
I'm trying to make it so that as soon as this closes up physically, I'll be back to where I started pre-fight camp, for example, and I can
okay.
get back into a fight camp. And I'm going to do everything that doesn't involve contact for as long as I can, even though I love sparring. So I'm probably going to get back into it and either just do straight wrestling or hit pads, do as many workouts as I can do that doesn't really involve getting hit in the throat or getting guillotined or having any kind of choke
Right.
that could potentially damage the surgery.
Yep.
So hopefully I can enter in really good physical shape in like February. I can enter the ring and start sparring and start doing the appropriate work that it takes for me to actually get into a fight. So
Awesome, man. Well, where can Francesco? Where can people reach you, man? If they want to, like fans, want to get in touch with you, reach out to you.
so my Instagram handle is Francesco27311. And then my Facebook is just my name and last name, Francesco Ricchi. And then if you find that, you'll see a picture of me on a boat with an American flag. That's me. So,
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, yep. Well,
yeah.
brother, like I said, I appreciate your time so much, man. I absolutely I enjoyed this so much, just hearing your story, man.
Thanks,
So
Josh. Thank you for the
take
opportunity.
care.
Seriously.
Hey, absolutely, man. Take care, brother. And hopefully we'll maybe we'll see each other soon.
Of course.
I'll be coming down to Tampa for the next card. So
I'll
if you're
probably be
there, man.
there. Yeah,
Awesome,
I'll
brother.
probably be there.
Well, take care. Thank you for the time, man, and we'll see each other soon.
You got it, my brother. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, bye.